what we've been really worried about all along is the fact that, and what the judge has been saying, is that the Taliban could suddenly get hold of this list. The Afghans don't know that they're on it, and they could suddenly get a knock at the door with, the Taliban there, ready to kill them.
A data leak that put up to 100,000 Afghan lives at risk was covered up by successive governments using a superinjunction. 2 years of legal battle spearheaded by the Times has now brought the leak to light. Defence Secretary John Healey's been speaking about it in the Commons.
This was a serious departmental error. It was in clear breach of strict data protection protocols, and it was one of many data losses relating to the ARAP scheme during this period.
The Times Defence editor Larisa Brown investigated the story, and she's with me now. Larisa, just take us back through the timeline. What happened and when?
I first found out about this in August 2023, so it's an awful long time ago, nearly 2 years now. I was on maternity leave at the time, and I was told that there'd been a data breach. After I had found out about it, there was a superinjunction imposed, and this meant that we couldn't reveal any of the details about this data breach. There had been potentially up to 100,000 Afghans put at risk. It was all of their personal information that was on this list, and they didn't know about it, and they've only just found out about it today in the vast majority of cases.
And when was that? When did the leak happen, and how?
The leak, it's extremely complicated. The leak had actually happened in February 2022. And what had happened, a British soldier had been trying to verify applications, and these were applications from Afghans in Afghanistan hoping to come to the UK. And he inadvertently sent an email to his Afghan colleagues to ask, can you help me with this? And the Afghans then forwarded it on to other Afghans who were in Afghanistan, and he didn't realise at that point that what he was sending was actually a database with 33,000 cases. He had no idea, and it wasn't until 18 months after that that the UK government realised what had happened, when an Afghan who had received the list threatened to publish it in a Facebook group.
I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. And presumably, people were at a lot of risk, and we're being told the risk has lessened now. It doesn't feel to me like the Taliban are particularly softies. They're presumably still people at risk.
So at the time, the government argued that this put them at risk of torture and death, and that's why they needed the superinjunction to remain in place. If the Taliban found out that there was a list out there, then they'd try and get hold of it. Now they've ordered this review. John Healey ordered a review of the whole policy, because what they were doing is then bringing tens of thousands of Afghans to the UK and spending billions of pounds of taxpayers' money. So there was this review, and the reviewers found that the threat to those Afghans has diminished over time, but the UK government, the MOD, is still arguing that the threat does remain.
And so, does it? Should we know about this? I know it's your story, but do the government have a point?
What we've been really worried about all along is the fact that, and what the judge has been saying, is that the Taliban could suddenly get hold of this list. The Afghans don't know that they're on it, and they could suddenly get a knock at the door with, the Taliban there, ready to kill them. And by not informing the Afghans that their data has been breached before now, they weren't able to take those steps that they might have wanted to change their information, to go somewhere else. They couldn't take those steps that they might have deemed necessary.
This must feel to them like yet another betrayal from Britain and from the people they fought alongside for all those years.
Well, as we're speaking, they are getting emails telling them that their data was breached back in 2022. They're being told to be careful about who they speak to. And they're obviously going to be really alarmed by this information that they're receiving. This will be the first that they've heard about it, and these people won't know what to do next.
What about the operation on the British side to try to, not the legal operation to cover it up, but the intelligence operation to try to minimise the harm? Have we been paying ransoms to people? Because there's been extortion in this, hasn't there?
No is the short answer to that. But the MOD has carried out this extraordinary operation called Operation Rubik, and that's been to shut down details of the leak getting out, but also actually prevent that list from getting into the hands of the Taliban. In one case, an Afghan who had the list was brought to the UK along with 7 members of his family, and when he arrived in the UK, I'm told that he was, had handed over his laptop, and someone then deleted the copy of the list from his laptop to make sure that it didn't get out anywhere. I've been told by sources that multiple people are believed to still have this list in the UK and Pakistan. Obviously, the government wants to shut this down. The Times has seen the list. We've analysed the list. And we do know its contents. There is a fresh injunction that was imposed on Monday. Discussions about that fresh injunction were actually still happening in the final minutes before the superinjunction lifted at midday, and that fresh injunction stops us from disclosing details of what was on that list.
Right, and people will be listening to this and they'll be thinking, how many other things are there like this? I mean, I realise one of the issues of a superinjunction is you can't, like Fight Club, you can't talk about the superinjunction. But is there a whole world we don't know about because people like us aren't allowed to talk about it? Or is this a really quite unusual situation?
I mean, I hope not. I have never dealt with anything as extraordinary as this. I mean, this has been a crazy couple of years. I haven't been able to, tell my husband, my parents about it because of the extraordinary nature of a superinjunction. You can't disclose that a court order has even happened, that it exists. We couldn't even tell, senior members in the Times. It was at the last minute that, our news editor could know. I can't think of a case like it. And
you've had to appear in court yourself, haven't you?
I've been to many, many hearings. One of the first hearing that I attended, I did stand up in court. The judge allowed a few journalists to do that, and I did, and so did the Daily Mail and the independent and global media who have been fighting this for so long. And yes, we were allowed to address him, and I made the point that this was potentially an election issue. This was before the general election last year, and we were really concerned that this information wouldn't be made public ahead of the election.
And I mean, the overall cost of this has been 7 billion has been allocated for us. Presumably in Afghanistan now, there's a human cost that will just be unfolding. You've worked with Afghans. Do you have any idea how this will be going down, what people will be doing?
I think there's going to be, a huge legal fight. People are going to want compensation. There are judicial reviews ongoing into Afghan cases. I'm sure some of them were massively impacted by all of this. I think the costs will continue. The government is saying that they have spent or will spend a total of 850 million just on bringing Afghans who have been affected by the breach. But in reality, the figure is going to be higher because they're bringing Afghans under a different scheme, different to a secret scheme that they've set up during this process. The figures are extremely complicated, but this is going to cost billions.
Thank you very much. That's Larisa Brown, Defence Editor at The Times.